Back in 2019, the S1H and S1R got announced and officially launched in 2020, which if you remember then, yeah. These cameras were definitely a huge miss because of the amazing capabilities that these cameras had at the time was far ahead of all the other cameras. The one thing that they were definitely missing still was phase detect autofocus, but the question that I'm answering today is, does the S1R and S1H still hold up in 2025, especially against the S1R Mark II? We're gonna be figuring out that answer in today's video, but spoiler, they kind of do. Diving right into it, let's talk about that price of these cameras. The S1R and S1H are also just discontinued. You can't really get these cameras brand new unless they're still in stock somewhere. So these are only gonna be in the used market for sub $2,000. I think right now as I'm watching and making this video, the S1R is going around $1,400, $1,500. Meanwhile, the S1H is going around maybe $1,800 to $2,000. Then the S1R Mark II, being brand new, is at $3,300 at launch. Eventually that price will come down in the used market and in the discount market eventually with time. Let's dive into more specific things like the physical build. Now, what's interesting about the LUMIX S1R Mark II is it kind of combines the best of both of these cameras, the S1H and the S1R, into one camera. You have the tilt up, the tilt down screen, but you also have the flip out screen similar to the S1H. And on top of that, you do get tally lights, you're getting a front record button. It's kind of taking the best of those two cameras and putting it into one unit and making it significantly smaller. And the batteries are completely different. The batteries are like this long in comparison to the S1R Mark II, which is like half the size. The autofocus test was surprisingly interesting. The S1R Mark II is just almost near perfect. It's getting to the point of Sony and Canon autofocus where you can't really tell the difference much these days. But to my surprise, the S1R not being the video camera and not really having great video specs whatsoever, performed way better than the S1H. The S1H, being contrast-based autofocus, was absolutely horrendous. And also a shout out to my mate Ezreal for loaning and helping me film this entire YouTube video. These are both of his cameras that he's owned, and it's just a fascinating test to find out the S1R has way better autofocus. Maybe it's because of the megapixel sensor, like 48 megapixel sensor. It just performed way better than the S1H. Now, one thing that I did notice during my autofocus test is when the subject was standing in place, the bokeh, for whatever reason, on the S1H, the S1R, and I also tested the S5 IIX at the same time, seemed much blurrier in the background in comparison to the S1R Mark II. Now, we had these settings the exact same. It was an f2, we're at 5600 Kelvin. We're all just on the base ISO settings for the cameras, but we made sure that the exposure was the exact same. And for some reason, even though we were recording simultaneously, subject was in the same place, the bokeh in the background on the S1H, the S5 IIX, and even the S1R looked way blurrier in comparison to the S1R Mark II. I don't know the reason why, I don't know the science why, that was just a conclusion that we came up to. Now for stabilization on all of these cameras, of course, the S1R Mark II is definitely going to be taking first place because of the cropless stabilization. There's just 8 stops of stabilization. The electronic stabilization is on standard and high. You get a lot more control with this camera. Granted, this camera is also not 6 years old in comparison. With that said though, the S1H and S1R still definitely pack a punch for stabilization, and I would almost argue are better than some modern cameras from a company that starts with an S that are coming out today. So with that said, they're still really good, especially in comparison to modern cameras from other camera manufacturers. Then for video specs, it is still worth mentioning on the S1H, you're kind of getting almost very similar video specs as the S5 IIX. Meanwhile, on the S1R, it literally has like terrible video specs. the most you can get an MOV is 5K and 10 bits, but it's a pixel by pixel crop. So you're not even getting full frame. And if you want full frame, it's an 8-bit 4K and MP4. So it's very interesting. The S1R, when that got released, was literally just a photo camera only. And then the S1H doesn't have as great as photo capabilities, and it was a dedicated video camera only. Now the S1R Mark II has it kind of both. It has amazing video specs, and it also has amazing photo capabilities with only a little bit of sacrifice and rolling shutter. Now, what was interesting though was the color differences between all of these cameras. It is worth noting the S1R can't shoot in vlog, so this kind of is muted, but the S1R Mark II versus the S1H in vlog was definitely some interesting results. We used the exact same lens on everything in the exact same setup. We adjusted the lighting, used the base ISO, and we just adjusted our lighting, making sure our gray levels were at 42%. And here's kind of the results we kind of came to. On the S1R Mark II, it was the most accurate in terms of colors. All you need to shift was slightly the red down, slightly shift the magenta up, and down on blue, but everything else was spot on. The cyan, yellow, green, everything else was spot on in terms of color. And then meanwhile on the S1H, you had to shift red, blue, green, and yellow slightly down, and then magenta and cyan slightly up. Overall though, I still would say the S1R Mark II definitely provided a slightly warmer image, even though it was more color accurate on paper. Though the S1H had some more kind of artifacts happening. There was more green hues, the cyan was way off, and it wasn't giving as of a natural look. And then also the S1R Mark II, because it's 8K and we're down sampling to 4K, it's a way sharper image in comparison to the S1H that has a low pass filter, and it just looks overall more hazy, especially if you're looking at the lights in the background. But when you're looking at Ezreal's beard, you can see the S1R Mark II is way sharper in comparison. So overall, the S1R Mark II definitely is a way more powerful camera in 2025, but the S1H and the S1R still definitely pack a punch. Granted though, if you are interested in picking up the S1H or the S1R, personally speaking, because of the contrast-based autofocus, I'll save you the trouble and just recommend picking up the S5IIX. If you're interested in seeing a video about the S5IIX versus the S1R, I just made a video about that right here. YouTube recommends you might like this video right here. Till the next one, guys, peace.